there's nothing there yet. Like,
yeah, well, now we're live on EXPERT35. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia. As promised, 35 different industries, expert from each industry, talking about the challenges, the hardships, and the opportunities. And today we're talking about disaster preparedness because, man, we are in H-Town, and well, actually, it doesn't matter. We're in America, and it's the number one zone right now. And nobody better than have Grace with us. Grace, thanks for being with us.
Hi.
Grace, you are part of Restoration One. It's a disaster recovery company. But how,
Yes.
before we jump into that, like, how did you get into this? Like, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I am actually a teacher by trade. I was an algebra teacher. I have my master's in differentiated instruction. After I decided to leave teaching, I went into some various sales positions, and one of my very good friends managed landfills all across the country, and he wanted to open up something that was dirty, that people didn't really want to get into, but we could still help people. And when he did that, he brought me along. He said, Grace, you want to get into this with us? And I said, absolutely. It sounds super fun. We get to help people. I get to educate people about what we do. And it's amazing.
Nice. So, a couple years in the industry, from teaching algebra. I'm going to shout out to Aldine because we got a lot of teachers out there, right? Aldine, teaching.
Yes.
And I mean, and this is interesting, right? Like, talk a little bit about that before we jump in. Text EXPERT35 to the number on the screen. You can join live if you want to be an expert on our show. That'll give you more information. This is Grace, Restoration One. She's a restoration expert. Text EXPERT55 if you want to. If you've got disasters to recover from, text EXPERT55. That's a quick intro. Man, let's talk to some students, right? Because students right now, they're out of work because they're not in school. They don't have that experience. Is there opportunities for them in this industry before we get to what we were talking about?
Yeah, so this is something I never really thought I would end up in, but disasters happen every single day. Not just floods, not just hurricanes, not just earthquakes, fires, regular disasters in your home, like when your dishwasher floods. And what we do is we really help people recover their property and get back to normal living as quickly as possible. We help businesses reduce their business interruption as quickly as possible. And there's so much opportunity as technicians, opportunity as developing business, sales, marketing, just a lot of opportunity. Houston is full of restoration companies. There are a ton of restoration companies all over the world because it's such an essential industry.
Wow, so interesting, right? So, shout out to the students. This is an industry that you can apply for. You're going to be trained on the job. You're going to learn. Yep. You do have to get some certifications, right? Because there's and all these other things.
Absolutely.
But you've been through this. You've been in the industry.
I have.
So let's talk about how to be prepared. Like, what are things we should do, just in a highlight, and then we'll get into all the different aspects of it.
So I think one of the biggest things that anyone can do to be prepared for any type of disaster is to make sure that your insurance is in check. Develop a relationship with your insurance agent and make sure your home or your business is covered for any type of disaster, whether it be a flood, whether it be a sewage backup. Make sure that you understand everything in your policy to be prepared. Also, make sure you do general maintenance on your home or your business. Make sure your HVAC system is serviced every year. Make sure your plumbing gets taken a look at every year, because those are expenses that people don't normally, they're not prepared for, and they are everyday disasters.
That's so interesting. I like what you're saying, right? It's almost like the preventative stuff, especially, if, and that's the first type of disasters we're going to talk about is disasters you see coming, right? So, one that we don't think about is like winter and sun. Like, those are things we see coming.
Right, absolutely. Hurricane season in Houston. I mean, it's a season. You have to be prepared.
So, for those, tell us a little bit of like some of the key aspects, or like how you can actually be better prepared, because you see them coming, it's the season.
Right.
what are some good checklists?
Yeah, so hurricane season usually brings a lot of rain. So one thing we always recommend to people is get your a roof inspection. Get someone to come out, a professional to come out and take a look at your roof to see if there are any issues that may arise before a huge rainstorm. Your landscaping, make sure your trees are not overhanging onto windows and roofs, and make sure your gutters are cleared. For the summer, like I said, get your HVAC system serviced, because getting your drain pan overflowing and your ceiling collapsing into your bedroom is something that no one ever wants to experience. Also, make sure you have a plan in place, an emergency disaster kit with non perishable foods, water, batteries, things like that. Those are all things you can do to be prepared for really any season.
Well, and that's great, right? I love the maintenance side, and
Mhm.
if you're a member of like a BNI group, man, you've got these people in your back pocket.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
We've already had an expert. We've had Brian. We've had Stallion Solutions, the roofing. We have air conditioning. We've got the right mix. So we'll put some of the experts in there so that you can hear what they suggest
Yeah.
in terms of a simple inspection. And you also want to have some tools in your back pocket. Well, one, insurance. I love that,
Yes.
hands down. Like,
Have to make sure you're covered.
talk to your insurance agent like right now,
Yes.
because you can't buy insurance once the hurricane is named and in the Gulf. Like,
Mhm.
it's either one. If it's in the Gulf, it's game over, right?
Too
You
late.
can no longer get insurance,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Usually flood insurance takes 30 days to kick in. So if it's not already in place, yep, 30 days. So if it's not already in place, you're out of luck.
right. So insurance is the number one conversation now, because we're already in hurricane season.
Yeah.
The Houston floods on a regular day too. So
Yeah. Yeah, really. It really does.
and let's talk about some of the tools, right? Flashlights and things like that, but also
Mhm.
restoration tools. Like, what are things, like, we just had a problem. We had one of our experts, George, come out because we
Mhm.
had a toilet backup. Well, it
Right.
flooded the office next to us.
Yes.
Man, thank God we had a wet pack and we had a fan
Right.
and we had some knives. We cut that sheetrock out. It was like Harvey 101, right? Rip it out, get it to where it's dry enough, because by the
Right.
time we were able to get a restoration crew like yours to come out,
Right.
the first thing they said is like, "Oh, thank God you ripped this out," because
Right.
it's every like 10 minutes of wet water, it adds like another $1,000 of like damage. Right?
It's water is one of the most dangerous, and it destroys the most property than anything else. Water is one of the biggest things that, because it's going to travel so far and you just don't realize it.
Right.
You could have one tiny wet spot and it could ruin your entire floors.
Totally. This is a
So
great point from Jennifer Johnson. Shout out to her. Take pictures of everything you own
yes.
before it's covered in mud.
Yes, yes. That is one thing that we always recommend to people. Make sure you take a home inventory. Take a video of every single thing in your home. Save your receipts. Take pictures, because
Yeah.
when you do have a claim, let's say it's a fire, let's say it's a flood, those things should be covered on your insurance. But if they're
Right.
not, that's something you have to talk to your insurance agent about. You want to make sure that you have a highlight reel, documentation of every single thing that you own, because you should be reimbursed for that if you ever do have a disaster.
And it's really important. We have a lot of people that may not be homeowners, maybe renting as well.
Right. Yeah.
The renter's policy can cover
Mhm.
stuff that is your possessions that's in your car that gets flooded.
Yes.
Right? And so you have to realize that, I had a trailer stolen once, and
Hmm.
I was like, oh man, like my car policy, but I wasn't towing it, so my car wasn't protecting the trailer, but my
Right.
homeowners protected the stuff in the trailer. And then I found out that there's like a $20, $25 a year policy for the entire trailer that I never knew existed
Yeah.
until after the disaster.
Of course. Usually you find out after.
Greg's asking, what's the craziest disaster situation you've seen so far?
So one of the craziest, I don't know if it's really crazy, it's kind of mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
We recently had a home. They have been staying home because of COVID, the stay at home order, using their dishwasher a lot. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
from this picture.
Oh, really? Okay,
Their
good.
their dishwasher supply line broke and ran all night. They had 5 inches of water in their entire bottom floor from one dishwasher supply line. It was probably a quarter of an inch. It just ran all night, and
Wow.
they had flooring that had to come up. This is a picture of an injected dry system. So we actually were blowing air into that little window
Crawl
seam
space.
to
Yeah.
dry it. Yep.
Mhm.
Instead of having to rip it out. So one thing people don't realize that we do is we try to restore and recover and save everything that you own instead of just having to replace it. So that was one of the craziest things that we've seen lately. That little tiny supply line ran all night and had about 5 inches of water and probably a 3,000 square foot bottom floor. So,
This is a great follow-up to that. Like, do you deal with insurance companies? Is this covered by insurance? How does that all work out? Because we need you. I mean, you need to be on the site immediately, right?
immediately, yes. So, your insurance policy actually requires you as a homeowner to mitigate immediately. So, we can actually get started before there's any really contact with the insurance. But me personally, I like to walk the homeowners through every single thing that needs to happen. And we work with all insurance companies, but we're an advocate for the homeowner instead of the insurance company. So we want to make sure the homeowner is taken care of and that they get anything covered that needs to be covered.
Perfect. So you do work with the
Yeah.
insurance company.
Yep.
That
All the
and
time.
then you start working immediately, and then work
Yep.
and paid. Now, do you think is it something that you get reimbursed for, or
So
do
we
they pay you?
So it depends on the insurance company. Sometimes the homeowner is paid for their mitigation and for also any type of rebuild and contents.
Right.
Sometimes the insurance company will pay us directly and pay the homeowner for any type of rebuild that needs to happen and their contents.
And give us ranges of like what you've seen, because I think that's part of being prepared.
Right.
Is like restoring a house sometimes can be more expensive than building the house.
Right. So the one thing that I always advise to people is make sure you understand your insurance policy. Make sure you know what your deductible is. That's the biggest thing that I can tell people. You have to at least be prepared with your deductible because that's what you're responsible for. As far as the rebuild, if you work with a good restoration company and a good contractor, they should work with the insurance company to get you what you deserve. So you shouldn't have to come out of pocket besides your deductible. But again, everyone's deductibles are different. Sometimes they're 1%, sometimes they're 2%. Some
Sure.
people like to have a higher deductible, so their premiums are different.
So they're
In
paying for
my
it later.
Right. In my opinion, I would say a lower deductible and maybe a higher monthly premium is more easier to be prepared for. So,
Interesting. And tell us, I mean, what is, you know, somebody needs to hear a dollar value, right?
yeah,
And, I mean, every case is different, but what
right.
can somebody like look, a real simple, like even that house that you just had a line deal, like how much was a project like that cost to restore? How many thousands of dollars is that?
So, our projects range from, I would say, usually the smallest is $2,500. They can go
Mhm.
up to 5, 10, 15, $20,000.
Exactly.
Depends. It depends on square footage. It depends on how much equipment we need. It depends on how long we have to be there.
Right.
We actually have to monitor our equipment and take psychometric readings every day. And we have to build a report for the insurance company to show that we have completed every task and dried from saturated to dry.
So interesting, right? Because you have to show that you are mitigating the risk. There's a question
Yep.
in there like, how do you address mold? Well, that's how you do it,
Right.
right?
Mitigating the risk early, getting rid of the water and getting everything dry is how you prevent microbial growth. It's the only way. Make sure there's no moisture and make sure your humidity is low. That's the only way you can prevent microbial growth, especially in Houston.
Incredible, right?
Yeah.
No, and such great advice. Like it's really the insurance. Be ready because that paying that insurance. Some insurance bills that premium may be $1,200 a year, but all of a sudden
Right.
you're avoiding this $10,000, $20,000 bill,
Right.
which if you are in a city like this, like Houston, you're gonna have challenges like this. And sometimes
Right.
it's not even you, it's your neighbor. Here's another great question. What happens if your neighbor does something, right? And it's gonna cause damage to you.
What can you do if a neighbor has something on their property that in a disaster will cause more damage to your property? Sometimes it's the neighbor's responsibility. So that is something that sometimes both insurances have to work together. Sometimes in that situation, we recommend a public adjuster because they can work with the insurance companies directly and make sure it's resolved, and the responsible party has to pay for the damage that they caused.
Right.
But
In
it's very
Texas,
specific to your policy.
right.
So,
Well, in Texas in general, Texas is whatever falls on your property is your responsibility.
mm,
So because of
yeah,
hurricanes and tornadoes
right,
like that. So if
right,
somebody picks up something from the neighbor and it falls on your house,
right.
it's not the neighbor's responsibility. It's
Yeah,
your responsibility because it fell on your house. So a tree falling, a lot of times
yeah,
people are like, oh, it's the neighbor's tree. Now, unless there was negligence, but again, that's
right.
you know,
That's a part of being prepared. So when a storm is coming or when you know it's storm season, you have to look at those trees. You have
yeah.
to trim all of your landscaping. If you have a neighbor's tree that's coming into your yard, you need to make sure you talk with them. And if they say no, then you
Mhm.
have that documentation and you can be prepared.
And to a good addition to that, because I'm sure we've got some lawyers chiming in, they're going to say, put it in writing,
Put
send
it
them
in
an email.
writing. Yep,
Right? I mean,
absolutely.
although a conversation is a conversation, put an email out like, hey, even if you had the conversation in person, go
Yeah.
back home, write that email and
Take
say,
pictures. Yep.
take pictures and do it before,
Yep.
right? In fact,
Before.
right now,
Right now, go outside.
stop watching this show. No, keep watching this show. But, great info. And of course, like my favorite part of the show is we talk about like 3 things to do now. Go take pictures. No,
Right.
those 3 things we should do right now.
Yeah. So, 3 things I think that you should do right now is call your insurance agent. If you don't have an insurance agent, find an insurance agent that you trust to review your policy. Look at what's covered. Do you have flood insurance? Some people say I'm not in a floodplain, but Houston is a floodplain. Do you have sewage backup coverage? A lot of people don't. Make sure you're covered for any and everything possible. The next one is like I talked about earlier, general maintenance. It's hot outside today in Houston. So hot. Your AC system is working and working and working. Get your HVAC system serviced for summer. And then lastly, call a reputable restoration company, an IICRC certified restoration company, and get a disaster plan, whether it's for your home, whether it's for your business, your rental properties. Be prepared.
That is such great advice, right? Hold on. I just took myself. There, I'm back. Here's
There
a
you are.
great question. What actually is a disaster plan? Because you guys
So,
know those, right?
yeah, a disaster plan is really straightforward. We review your insurance with you. We let you know, talk to your agent. We always talk about inventory, taking an inventory of your home. Take the pictures, take a video. We look at square footage of your house and building materials. So if a disaster happens, you can call us and you can say, or you can call any restoration company, right? You can call and say, hey, I had this disaster, my house flooded. The plan is in place. The company will instantly know we need this much, we need this many people, we need, someone to clean your contents, we need someone to restore your technology. Did an IT room get wet? We have all of our ducks in a row to make sure everything is taken care of as soon as possible. Shut off valves, your sprinklers malfunctioning. How do you turn the water off? Nobody knows how to turn the water
Oh
off.
yeah, like is there a valve? Is it here? Is
Right.
it on the inside? Where's your,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So
what
the
is it?
plan is
Fire
in
department
place.
connection? Yeah, all those
Right.
pieces.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit, and obviously, guys, with Restoration One, it's a
Hmm.
great company here in Houston, right?
Yes.
you guys can actually do that, and you'll do it for free, right?
Yes, we
To
do
build
a
a
free
plan.
disaster plan, residential or commercial properties.
Text expert35. She will come on. Maybe not you, but someone from your team will come
It'll
out
be me. It'll
every
be me.
time. Grace, every time. Yeah, you're amazing. You have 5 cars. So yeah, somebody from your team will come out and really like help us be there and be there for us, right?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
it's not just the disasters that we see coming; it's the disasters we don't see coming. The fire,
Right.
the flooding, like this hose that was just tied into improperly or just broke in the back of a dishwasher.
Yep.
I feel like you should write a book. There's that like 1,000 ways to die. There's like 1,000 ways to flood.
There really is. I mean, it's something you never think about until it happens to you. But I can think about it for you, and I can make
Yes.
sure that you're prepared and educated on what's going to happen and how we can help.
Amazing. So good having you on the show. Super
Yeah,
actionable.
thank you.
We'd love to have you back when you're like on site. I mean, that's what people are asking. They want to see something from when you're
Yeah.
on site. Obviously, we're gonna have to get some like release forms from the homeowner or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like just seeing the process.
Mhm.
These checklists are super important. Listening, about your insurance, but also
Yeah.
if you're looking for a job, reach out to restoration industry, because once you get
Yeah.
licenses, there's a couple of licenses you need,
Yep.
right? You can really go and be an impact and help a lot of people. And whether you're doing it for money or just helping,
Right.
we're a city that needs that. There's questions about COVID and like cleaning. That's also restoration, right? That's
It
also a
is.
disaster. So I'm sure you guys get into some of the cleaning on that side as well, right?
Yep, biohazard cleanup, same bloodborne pathogen, COVID cleaning, sewage is considered biohazard cleanup. So we do all of it. Anything that's gross.
Anything that's they change diapers. They're good. That actually would be a great.
Biohazard.
We'll even change your diapers for you. And if you use the tagline, Expert35 gets royalties. I'm just disclaiming it. So, Ray, super fun having you on the show today. I
Yeah,
mean, I
thank you
think
so
the
much.
information that you're giving out is incredible. I'm going to let you go onto the notes and just
Awesome.
write things in there because people are asking more and more
Absolutely.
questions. So,
Absolutely. Super excited.
thank you so much for joining. We're going to have you back because we
Thank
want to see more of the
you.
posting. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
All right, guys, that was Grace with Restoration One. Follow us this week. We've got more things coming up on Expert 35. We're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about fashion and how you can influence this movement that is happening and just really build new opportunities for yourself, because it is a new economy. It's a new way of living, and things are shifting. So we love hearing from you guys. Text Expert35 to the number on the screen, but I'm going to put disaster plan. I'm going to put some of the stuff from Restoration One. This is their team. We'll hope to see you guys soon. Thank you for joining us.